CBC insider reveals heartbreaking truth. Liberal agenda could destroy Canada's future. Canadians were promised a new era of stability and competence when Mark Carney took over the Liberal leadership and became Prime Minister following the snap federal election of April 28, 2025. But months into his tenure, the illusion of progress is quickly crumbling. Behind the polished branding and economic jargon lies a disturbing pattern of decay, one that a CBC insider now admits is quietly accepted among Liberal-aligned media. What was once denied or spun now leaks out through reluctant acknowledgments and changed talking points. The heartbreaking truth? The Liberal agenda is not just failing to solve Canada's problems, it may be accelerating them. At the heart of the media shift is a stunning change in tone. The same CBC and CTV commentators who assured viewers that Canada had elbows up in trade negotiations have begun walking back their rhetoric. Now the expectations are being lowered. Instead of pushing for strong, fair deals or economic independence, they're subtly preparing Canadians to settle for damage control. A modest reduction in tariffs is being framed as a victory. Even seasoned Liberal defenders like Scott Reid have started speaking in hypotheticals that sound more like surrender than strategy. On air, Reid recently speculated that if Canada could secure a 15% tariff instead of 27.5% on auto exports, it should be seen as a positive outcome. But he also admitted that this might be the best we get, not because it's fair, but because we're not a priority anymore. This defeatist shift reveals a more serious crisis. We are no longer setting the agenda. Canada is reacting to events, not shaping them. And this isn't just about trade. It's about a government and media complex that has lost faith in Canada's competitiveness, yet refuses to course correct. It's a heartbreakingly passive mindset for a country that once prided itself on economic initiative and independence. The Liberal government is no longer trying to elevate Canada, it is simply managing decline. But no amount of tariff relief will solve the real problems. That's the painful reality discussed during a CBC panel featuring representatives from Canada's auto sector. They weren't worried only about foreign trade. They were blunt about what's killing the industry from within. Canada's internal policies are strangling investment. Endless regulations, high taxes, and slow approval processes are driving capital away. Industry leaders made clear that even with zero tariffs, Canada is no longer attractive to investors. Brian Kingston, head of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, didn't sugarcoat it. If permanent tariffs remain, he said, it'll be on Canada to fix itself, to become competitive again. But under the Liberal agenda, that fix seems further away than ever. That internal rut shows up in hard numbers. A newly released Fraser Institute report paints a sobering picture of the financial burden now crushing Canadian families. Since 1961, taxes have exploded by over 2,700%, while wages and cost of living have risen at a much slower pace. As of 2024, the average Canadian family pays more than $48,000 in taxes annually, amounting to roughly 42% of their total income. These aren't just income taxes. They include payroll taxes, property taxes, carbon levies, fuel surcharges, and excise fees, all layered on top of one another. For many, it's suffocating. They're spending more on taxes than they are on food, housing, or transportation. This isn't a tax system designed to fund essential services. It's one that punishes work, growth, and entrepreneurship. And what do Canadians get in return for that $48,000 bill? Failing healthcare systems, spiraling housing costs, and inflation that keeps eroding real incomes. Meanwhile, their elected officials seem oblivious to the pressure. MPs from the governing party are seen attending parades and posting vacation photos, while provinces grapple with budget shortfalls and working families get crushed under rising costs. Instead of convening emergency policy sessions, they're lounging on beaches. The contrast is galling. As Canada bleeds investment, loses jobs, and watches industries wither, the political elite appears more concerned with photo ops than solutions. Nowhere is that disconnect more obvious than in the government's response to dissent. The sentencing hearings for Freedom Convoy organizers Tamara Lich and Chris Barber have exposed a disturbing authoritarian streak. The Emergencies Act was already ruled illegal in court, Yet the federal crown is still seeking up to 8 years in prison for organizers of a protest that was nonviolent and largely cooperative. Prosecutors conceded that there was no incitement to violence and no criminal conspiracy. They acknowledged it was prolonged civil disobedience. But that, apparently, is enough to justify life-ruining sentences. Even Paul Champ, a prominent Ottawa lawyer who opposed the convoy, called the Crown's proposed sentencing absurd. And he's right. Punishing peaceful protest so harshly, especially after a court found the government's use of emergency powers unlawful, is not just heavy-handed, it's politically vindictive. It's the kind of reaction you'd expect in an authoritarian regime, not in a democracy that claims to value free expression and civic engagement. It sends a chilling message to Canadians: challenge the liberal order, and you could lose everything. This isn't governance, it's coercion. This pattern of failure and punishment points to a deeper flaw in the Liberal agenda. It is built not on empowering Canadians, but on controlling them. Instead of fostering competition and growth, it imposes taxes and regulations. Instead of listening to legitimate concerns, it silences them. Instead of making Canada a place where people want to invest and build, it turns them away. This is not a country with a plan. It's a country in managed decline, led by a party more focused on appearances than progress. What makes all of this even more tragic is that Canadians aren't asking for miracles. They're asking for honesty, competence, and a fair chance to succeed. But instead, they're being told to be grateful for marginal tariff relief. They're watching their taxes rise while their quality of life falls. They're seeing peaceful citizens prosecuted while policymakers vacation. And now, thanks to a CBC insider, we know even the media can no longer keep up the charade. The heartbreak comes not just from policy failure, but from the realization that the people who promise better have stopped even pretending to aim higher. The Liberal agenda, under Mark Carney's leadership, is pushing Canada into a future defined not by innovation or prosperity, but by lowered expectations and deepening control. The economic wounds, the political gaslighting, the abandonment of fairness and proportionality, all of it is creating a Canada that feels smaller, more fragile, and less free. And if that course isn't changed soon, the heartbreaking truth revealed by that CBC insider may become Canada's grim reality, that the very government meant to protect our future is the one quietly dismantling it.